And welcome to the studio where I'm going to be finishing this Thomas Gainsborough painting, hopefully over the next 2 lessons. And anyway, what I'm going to do here at the moment is that I'm just concentrating mainly on building up some depth into the ground, adding a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of raw sienna, a little bit of Van Dyke brown, a touch of black, just building up those shadows just underneath the character there. Character? Is he a character? I don't know. But old John Plampin, that's the word I was looking for. Yes, my memory went a little bit then, which is not difficult. And we're going to be listening a little bit of the Blue Danube by Strauss as I do this, just to relax us. It's a lot easier for me to actually narrate a painting such as this, rather than try and go through it step by step, because as you can see I have sped up this video slightly because this is such a time consuming painting. Now I've taken a break from painting this for the last a couple of weeks actually. It's been a few weeks since I actually put a brush to canvas, and the reason I do that is the same with Jason with his painting, is that even with acrylics, you've got to wait for the paint basically to cure. People think the acrylics dry so fast. Well, they do dry fast. They touch dry within minutes. But are they cured? Because you can paint on top of acrylic after about an hour and it'll still lift off. In other words, the wet paint will lift the dry paint or semi-dry paint, because it takes a couple of weeks for this paint to cure. And because the amount of layers that I've actually put onto this painting, I decided to, what I say is, put it to sleep. Yes, I put some paintings to sleep sometimes, and they just sit there and they rest, and the colour changes. The colour becomes more vibrant, and especially if you've put glazes on like I've done with this particular painting. Acrylic dry is a naturally matte finish. You'll find that a lot of paintings look a bit dull. Do you need the varnish paintings? Well, not entirely, you don't, because acrylics are self-sealing. The reason we put varnish on paintings is basically just to protect the paint from being chipped and marked and dust and all this other nasty stuff that floats around in the air. But it's just a protection coat basically. There's 2 different types of varnish. There's varnish you can put on, and it's removable varnish, so you can get the solvent that will remove that from the surface of the canvas, or you can get permanent varnish. That comes in gloss, and it comes in matte, and it comes in soft sheen. So if you mix, you've got to have the same types of varnish. Obviously you can have a gloss and a matte, and if you mix 50-50, then you can have this lovely satin type of soft sheen finish. That's my preferred varnish. I don't varnish money in my paintings. You say potato, I say potato. I don't varnish unless I really want to, basically. Storage of paintings is another thing, isn't it? You need to think about that. Now, if you put acrylic paintings together, especially the canvas panels, you'll find they will tend to stick a little bit because they do sweat. Yes. So put a little bit of parchment paper or a little bit of greaseproof paper in between the canvases as you stack them, and then you'll find that they won't stick. There's a little tip. Okay, so I'm working on the nice little dog. He looks like a pointer, doesn't he? I'm not sure what breed of dog it is, but so this is going to be built up over several different layers. You'll see me painting over the legs and the body a few times during this process, and the video that's going to follow this before I actually complete the painting. So I'm just going to let the music play a little bit and just let you watch me painting the dog here a little bit now. Yes, and here I am again. So I've done a little bit of work on that dog, as you can see, building a little bit of light now, just to give that depth onto that, the muscles in the leg of the dog. It's important that, you know, if you can study some animals, if you're going to be painting a horse or a dog or a cat or whatever, try and get a book on the actual animal and study it. Look at the muscle groups, and you know where these muscles are, and then you can just put a little bit of shadow in and a little bit of highlight in, and you'll find you'll give the dog or the animal that you're painting a little bit more definition. Quite like this music. You'll hear that I do actually put a bit of classical music onto my videos occasionally, and that is because of my mother's influence, where she used to play the piano, and she also used to play a church organ. She was an organist for 20 odd years, I think it was, and she was always liked playing some classical music, and we used to listen to Strauss and Tchaikovsky and all that. Anyway, I digress. So continuing to build on the dogs. Notice that the blending I'm doing is quite subtle. I'm using a little bit of white paint with a little bit of grey paint. I'm just adding a touch of burnt umber to it. Sometimes I add a touch of black to it. Sometimes I add a touch of blue to it. And that gives you that colour difference. It's all contrasts. That's what gives it depth. Building the ear now, leaving a little white mark around the edge of that ear, and then going in with some dark, which is going to push that ear forward, and it's going to look a little bit three-dimensional. And you need to learn all these little tricks. It's the same with old John's legs and his waistcoat and stuff. I'm going to be touching that up at a later stage, I think. I'm going to be putting some more detail into this grass, and it's just all those little tiny little things. I could play around with this painting for weeks to come, but I thought, well, I can't do that because we'll be watching videos for the next 12 months otherwise. So Jason, I've got to thank for bringing me into this challenge. It has been quite a long one. I think we're going to be at about 12 episodes, in fact. But what I will be doing is compiling all that into one big a lesson then, which will be compressed down and will be sped up a little bit, so you can watch the whole process from start to finish. And if you want the individual lessons, then you can just go along to www.youtube.com/c/clive5art and have a look at my playlist section, and there you will find the masterclass. And all these lessons then, the 12 lessons will actually be in there for you, along with other playlists that are available on my channel. And I want to thank all the subscribers that have been clicking onto the channel and building up my subscription base, which is fantastic. I'm glad I'm influencing and helping so many people out there, and it brings me great pleasure into painting things like this, knowing that you can learn from them and improve your art. Again, just constantly building up these shadows and depth, just building some dimension into this. I'm following my reference as close as I can. There's a lot of warm browns in this. There's some raw siennas and some yellow ochres, and I'm trying to match the colours where I can. Put in some shadows in, a little bit of highlights, and that's all it is. Shadows, highlights and midtones. Just to give you that depth. Try painting a sphere or a ball and working out your tones and light, and deciding which way your light is coming from. Light doesn't always come from the right or the left. Don't forget, light can come straight down. You don't need a bright light source. So when you're thinking about painting, just think about roughly where you think that light will be falling from. In this particular instance, I think the light is falling behind me as the painter and falling onto John's face. It's also falling onto the dog. So that means that the light is behind us or in front of the subject. There you go, some food for thought there. So I'm just picking up some lighter green paint now, and I'm using my strip lining brush, which is the long bristled brush. It holds a lot of paint, but it also has got to be thinned. So when you're thinning your acrylic paints, make sure that you don't go over the 35% rule is average. 40% is then you're on dangerous territory with acrylics, because you can underbind that paint. There's binders in the paint because of the resins and stuff like that is actually put together with. The pigment is held there in place with these binders, and if you thin down those binders too much, then your paint is just going to flake away over time. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it may not be in 10 years time, but that paint will flake away. So always use some sort of medium. I got a matte medium which I sell on the website, which is www.clive5art.co.uk. Pop along to the shop and then you can purchase some of that, and you can thin your acrylics down with that safely. Again, I'm just picking up some highlights now onto this grass. Now what you will find with this is that the acrylics dry 2 tones and darker, or 2 shades darker. So where this looks really bright at the moment, as it dies back, as it dries, it's going to darken, and it's going to continue to darken over that 2-week drying period. As I said, as the paint cures, paints dry dark. So when you paint in skin tones or anything like that, you've got to remember that always go a little bit lighter than you think you need, especially with greens. I struggled a lot with greens. Again, you can see I'm putting some lighter bits of green around John's thigh there. The video just shifted then, but don't worry too much about that. That's just to let me know that I'm just about approaching the end of this particular lesson, so I'd like to thank you for joining us again in the studio. There's only me and the dog and John, so thank you for joining myself in the studio and painting away that stress of everyday life. I hope you've picked up a few tips there from me today on this narrational video. And please comment below, ask me any questions you want. All the information you need is in the descriptions of the video. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you, and hope that you subscribe along to the video if you haven't already done so. Subscriptions are free, don't forget, and lessons are uploaded every Monday for you. Yeah, so please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I will see you on the next lesson. My name is Clive from Clive's Art. See you soon. Bye.